Was Roman Africa actually a giant, surprisingly chill sandbox? Seriously, you're reading that right. Forget the epic battles, the legions marching in formation, the constant, terrifying threat of barbarian hordes. The reality, as unearthed by some seriously clever archaeologists, is, well, it's a lot less dramatic than you'd think. Let's dive in, shall we? Imagine this, the sun beating down on the North African landscape, a vast, ochre expanse stretching towards the shimmering Mediterranean. Instead of a desperate struggle for survival, picture Roman soldiers, not clashing swords, but politely shooing flocks of sheep away from meticulously planted fields. Yep, for centuries the primary job of the Roman army in Africa wasn't to conquer, it was to manage sheep, seriously. It started around the first 300 years of Roman rule, a period that sounds like a lullaby compared to the usual Roman war stories. A modest legion, maybe 25,000 men at most, a surprisingly small force, was all it took to keep the peace across this sprawling territory. Think of it like a really, really big neighborhood watch, but instead of catching burglars, they were preventing woolly chaos. Then something even stranger emerged from the dust. Recent digs revealed a startling truth: the forts weren't built for battle, they weren't designed to repel waves of invaders. Instead, they were strategically positioned to keep nomadic tribes, the Berbers, from trampling the crops. These nomads, you see, were seasonal travelers, following the rains and the grazing lands. In the winter, they'd head south into the drier, pre-desert regions, where sparse vegetation offered enough fodder for their animals. Come summer, when the pre-desert turned into a scorching wasteland, they'd migrate north, back to the more fertile agricultural areas. And the Romans, they weren't trying to stop them. They were politely requesting that these nomadic flocks stay off the good farmland. It's like a very, very long-running, low-stakes negotiation. The Romans were so chill about it, they even offered generous purchase tax breaks to the nomads, a bizarrely accommodating approach for an empire known for its military might. It's as if they realized that a bit of trade and a little diplomacy were far more effective than a full-blown war. Fast forward to the 4th century, and the situation hadn't changed much. The Roman forces in Africa were now primarily cavalry, lighter, faster troops designed for patrolling and chasing the occasional stray raider, not for engaging in massive battles. It's like switching from a heavyweight boxer to a nimble street fighter. The focus had shifted from control to containment, a subtle but significant change in strategy. But let's talk about infrastructure. Because managing a vast territory like North Africa wasn't just about keeping the peace, it was about keeping things moving, and the Romans were masters of logistics. Over 19,000 kilometers of roads snaked their way through the region, connecting the cities and facilitating the flow of goods. Forget the romantic image of Roman legions marching across the landscape. These roads were built to move grain from the fertile fields of North Africa to bustling ports like Carthage. Carthage itself? It wasn't just a city, it was a logistical masterpiece. Think of it as a double-layered harbor, a clever solution to the challenges of the coastline. The outer harbor, originally a rectangle, was gradually expanded into a hexagon, a remarkable feat of engineering. And then, in the early 2nd century AD, under either Trajan or Hadrian, the inner harbor, a circular design, was brought back into commission. A grand colonnaded boulevard radiated outwards from the harbor, connecting it to the heart of the city. By around 200 AD, Carthage was a major shipping hub, capable of handling an absolutely staggering volume of cargo. And Carthage wasn't alone. Utica, another port city, could accommodate 600 ships. Leptis Magna, further inland in Tripolitania, underwent a major renovation, transforming it into a vital trading center. It was a network, a carefully constructed system designed to funnel wealth and resources throughout the empire. Now, let's be honest, the Roman Empire wasn't exactly known for its super efficient bureaucracy. They had a tendency to outsource most of their operations, relying on private contractors to handle vital tasks. The annona, or grain tax, is a perfect example. Instead of building and managing thousands of public estates to collect the grain, the state simply leased land to private individuals, who then paid a portion of their harvest as tax. The terms of these leases were incredibly generous, offering tenants heritable rights and the ability to sell their leases, a system designed to maximize revenue for the state. It was a brilliant, if slightly ruthless, way to manage a vast agricultural empire. Shipping was handled in a similar fashion. By the 4th century, a powerful guild of shippers, the navicularii, had emerged. But unlike traditional government agencies, this guild wasn't subject to strict oversight. Instead, they were granted a series of privileges, tax exemptions, protection from lawsuits, and even assistance in refurbishing their ships. In return, they were obligated to provide shipping services throughout the empire, particularly in Egypt. The state essentially created a self-sustaining, highly profitable shipping industry, turning private enterprise into a crucial component of the imperial economy. It's like building a private army of merchants, all working to the benefit of the state. And what did this all achieve? It stimulated the local economy, of course. During the first century and a half of Roman rule, North Africa was primarily focused on grain production. But as the climate shifted and the region's conditions became more suitable for growing olives and wine, the focus gradually shifted to these new crops. From around 150 to 400 AD, North Africa experienced a period of unprecedented prosperity, fueled by subsidized transport and readily available land. The evidence is overwhelming. Archaeological surveys have revealed a dramatic increase in the number and prosperity of rural settlements. Farmers pushed further inland, exploiting the drier regions that were previously unsuitable for agriculture. Olive groves, once confined to the coastal areas, now stretched 150 kilometers inland. And there's even anecdotal evidence, an inscription celebrating an octogenarian who had planted 4,000 olive trees, a testament to the dedication and ambition of the local population. But the impact of Roman North Africa extended far beyond its borders. Archaeologists have recently developed sophisticated techniques for identifying olive oil and wine amphorae ceramic jars used for transporting these goods, and the results have been astonishing. North African olive oil and wine were traded throughout the Mediterranean, from Spain to Italy, and even as far as Britain. And it wasn't just the staples that were being shipped. North African fine wares, particularly red slip pottery, were also in high demand. Considering the high cost of transporting goods across the Mediterranean, it's puzzling how these luxury items could have been profitably exported. The answer lies in the state-subsidized transport system, which dramatically reduced shipping costs. The state created an economic infrastructure that allowed private merchants to operate within a controlled environment, effectively turning North Africa into a major export hub. It's important to remember that this prosperity wasn't solely the result of Roman rule. Indigenous communities had been cultivating the land for centuries, utilizing sophisticated irrigation techniques. Terraced hillsides, cisterns, wells, and carefully negotiated water-sharing schemes, these ancient methods were simply being applied more vigorously. The incentive to sell agricultural surpluses, combined with the availability of land and subsidized transport, created a powerful economic engine. Nomads who provided crucial labor during the harvest season also benefited from preferential tax treatment, and it wasn't just the settlers who thrived. The irrigation systems used in the late Roman period were based on ancient, indigenous practices. From La Maspa ein Merwana, where a water-sharing scheme was commemorated on an inscription, to Volubilis, Ial Caesarea and Utica, these traditional methods of water conservation were being applied across the region. The demand for agricultural products spurred a boom in rural communities, attracting labor from even the most remote tribal centers. By the 4th century, North Africa had developed a truly impressive capital, Carthage. Abandoned after the Islamic conquest in the late 7th century, it lay dormant for centuries, waiting to be rediscovered. Thanks to recent excavations, we now have a remarkably detailed picture of this once thriving metropolis. According to the Expositio Todius Mundi, a 4th century survey, Carthage boasted a remarkably regular street plan resembling a plantation. It had a music hall, a curious harbor with a calm sea, and a famous street lined with silversmiths. The city also featured a theater, a massive circus for chariot racing, a large bath complex, and the Hall of Memory, where Boniface, a Roman governor, was assassinated. The city's residential areas were equally impressive, with grand houses featuring richly colored mosaics, the house of the Greek charioteer, and the villa with private bath being particularly noteworthy. While most of the city's residential areas remain unexcavated, estimates suggest that Carthage housed around 100,000 people, a population rivaling that of Rome and Constantinople. The public buildings hosted a diverse range of cultural activities. Christianity in its various forms coexisted with traditional pagan cults and Eastern mystery religions. Classical culture flourished, with Augustine, a renowned Latinist, receiving his education in Carthage and later pursuing a teaching career there. His success was partly due to connections he made through influential figures like Vindicianus and Symmachus, who held positions as governor and served as patrons. 4th century Carthage was a vibrant cultural and economic center, a testament to the enduring power of Roman influence. It was a city of contrasts, grand public buildings juxtaposed against the cramped houses of ordinary citizens, a symbol of Roman order imposed on a seemingly chaotic landscape. But the prosperity of Roman North Africa was crucial for the survival of the entire empire. Without the revenue generated by the grain tax, the western provinces, Gaul, Spain, and North Africa, would have been unable to support the vast armies needed to defend against the relentless pressure of barbarian invaders. And it was here in the late 5th century that Flavius Aetius, a brilliant military strategist and a last true Roman of the West, stepped forward to save the empire from collapse. His rise to power marked a turning point in the history of the Roman West, so there you have it. A story that challenges our conventional understanding of Roman history. It's a story about diplomacy, logistics, and a surprising amount of chill. It's a story that reminds us that even the most powerful empires can be built on the foundations of relatively simple, and sometimes even slightly absurd, arrangements. But one final question lingers. If Roman Africa was truly a giant, surprisingly chill sandbox, what were they really playing with?